So in this video I'm going to help reduce the amount of nighttime awakenings you have and reduce the amount of time that you're awake when they do occur. But before I do, you need to understand why they're happening before we can tackle them. So sleep runs in cycles which comprises of 4 stages. You've got awake, you've got light, you've got deep, and then you've got REM sleep. And because sleep runs in cycles and wakefulness is part of the sleep cycle, every single person on the planet will wake up multiple times throughout the night. It's just that most people, they just don't remember waking up during the night. And that's because wakefulness to them is not something threatening. So if you would imagine one of your ancestors, and your ancestors in their cave, they wake up during the night just as every single person does. They roll around and there's nothing threatening to their safety. So they just fall straight back to sleep and they don't remember waking up because it was just a non-event to them. Now imagine they woke up and they heard a saber-toothed tiger. So the heart rate, body temperature, adrenaline, cortisol is just going to spike through the roof, and they're going to be incredibly alert until that threat has passed. And it's going to take them a long time to fall back to sleep afterwards because their body is so full of adrenaline and cortisol. Now imagine if every single time your ancestor was to wake up, there was always a saber-toothed tiger outside their cave. That's kind of what you're doing, and that's kind of how you've conditioned your brain to see wakefulness during the night. So every time you're awake in bed at night and you force sleep, you fight with sleep, you look at the clock and you try and make yourself fall back to sleep, you're telling your brain there's something incredibly threatening to your safety. So every time you wake up briefly, the brain's going to then make you more alert because it thinks it's helping you. So one of the most helpful things you can do is just to stop looking at the time during the night. So ban your clocks from your bedrooms, because every single time you look at the clock during the night, you're just reinforcing wakefulness. Also, if you can resist the urge to try and forcibly fall back to sleep as well, that would be incredibly helpful to you. Now, telling an insomniac to do that is something pretty hard. I mean, I know during my 20 years of insomnia, if someone had said, you know, don't try and force yourself back to sleep, I just wouldn't have been able to do it because I was just so desperate to sleep. Changing my thought patterns like that is just too big of a jump. So the most helpful thing you can do is to change your behaviors, and the best behavior change you can do is to reduce the amount of time you spend in bed. I had a call about 3 weeks ago where I had someone who was spending 9 hours in bed and waking up about 3 times in the night for about 40 minutes or so. And she wasn't anxious about her sleep and she was waking up feeling pretty refreshed, but she just really wanted to reduce those nighttime awakenings. So she was spending 9 hours in bed, but we worked out that she was awake for about 2 hours each night. So together we worked out a sleep window for her of about 7.5 hours. Spoke to her yesterday and those nighttime awakenings have virtually vanished. And that's because she was asking the body to give her 9 hours of sleep. It only needed 7, so she was going to be in bed awake for 2 hours. So by only spending 7.5 hours in bed, she was still sleeping the same amount of time, but she was just spending a lot less time in bed awake. Now, someone with a lot of anxiety, stress and worry around their sleep, just setting themselves a sleep window alone isn't going to help cure their insomnia, but for a lot of people it's going to be incredibly helpful to them. So take a look in the comments section where I've copied and pasted a chapter from my book about how to set yourself a sleep window. Do it for a week or so. It's going to absolutely transform your sleep. It's a really simple thing to do, but it is incredibly effective, as well as helping to build the sleep drive and to give you a new pattern of sleep. What giving the sleep window also does, it also helps tackle the anxiety that you have in bed at night, because if you can spend considerably less time in bed awake, you're not going to have that conditioned response of the bed being a place of worry and wakefulness, because it isn't anymore, because it's a place that you actually spend the majority of your time asleep in. So on the next video, well, have you ever noticed that you can be fighting, forcing and pleading with sleep all night, and then just 1 hour before the alarm sounds you go out like that? And it's incredibly frustrating, especially if it seems to happen all the time. Well, what's going on there? Well, The answer is actually incredibly simple. But if you want to know what it is, I'll see you on the next video.